Hello, everyone. My guest today is Guillaume de Cugas. He is the founder of a company called is CEO of a company called Linkfluence, a SaaS platform that turns social data into valuable insights for global brands using AI and the human expertise from 100 plus data scientists and analysts. He's also the co-founder and CEO of Scoopit, a web content monitoring SaaS platform, which was acquired by Linkfluence. He's been an entrepreneur since 2000. Are you ready, Guillaume, to take us to the top?
Yep.
All right. So what happened? You sold Scoopit to Linkfluence, and then they made you the CEO?
Yeah, it's a pretty exotic deal, but it came at a time where Linkfluence was looking at developing in the US, accelerating after just having closed a new round of funding of $21 million. And they were also looking for a new CEO. So they kind of hit two birds with one stone.
Yeah. You said, okay, fine, I'll come be CEO, but you have to acquire my company for a 10x multiple.
Well, there was the conversation didn't go exactly like this, but yeah, the question was like, Linkfluence has been very strong developing its revenue model in Europe and Asia, but among all of the top players in the social listening space, it didn't do anything in the US. Scoopit, however, was headquartered in San Francisco, so there was a nice fit. And also at the technology level, both companies are doing the same thing, which is crawling the web using AI to analyze this content and helping marketers derive value from it.
Yep. Okay, so tell us about, you just give us a bit of an overview about Linkfluence. Give us an example of a customer that's using it.
So customers include, large global brands like Danone or Burberry or Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, and so on. So those large global brands who need to develop an intimate knowledge of their consumers, that's essential to understand their brand and whether it's still relevant or understand market trends. So the traditional way of doing that is you call people, you do surveys, you do polls, and you get insights out of this. The new way of doing this is you look at social data, you look at what people say online in public conversations, and you use big data and AI technology to make sense out of all of this.
Yep. Very good. Okay. So give me, you just mentioned some enterprise customers. I don't want to go down every cohort, but on average, what would one of these customers pay you per month or per year for the technology?
So the interesting part, and we did one of those a few months ago, and I talked about the Scoopit business and how we scaled up to enterprise. One of the things we saw in marketing technology that was a limitation of Scoopit is like, how do you scale those deals? Well, the thing is, Linkfluence managed to do this. They have a number of clients above $1 million in revenue on a yearly basis. They start, we start, I should say, we now at smaller sizes with, engagement, which can be 20K, 30K, 50K. But if you look at those large global brands, they want those inside the social data to be a global deployment, which means hundreds or thousands of users. And that's where you go and have, above $1 million a year of recurring revenue with those larger brands.
Okay. But adding like number of seats is a pretty typical pricing axis to drive expansion revenue. Why weren't you able to figure that out at Scoopit?
So at Scoopit, what we found is that if you want to drive the number of seats, you need to do more than software. And that was a limitation. We didn't have the resources to build a service team. And that's what Linkfluence did really, really well. The company actually started not as a SaaS company, but more like a traditional agency model. And they built the platform that they felt they needed from a technology standpoint. And I think if you want to scale and be able to have 2,000 people using your software, you need to have a very simple, very bottom-up approach, or you need to bring services like project management, consulting. And the other thing Linkfluence does, it's also capable of operating the platform itself for its own customers. So what it does is it's able to derive insights and operate the platform on behalf of its clients. So that's the beauty of the model, and that's how they were able to scale to that level that we failed to do at Scoopit, to be really honest.
Interesting. Okay, so now when you put it all together, so are you looking at like average contract values, call it like $100,000, $200,000? Generally, where are they falling?
Yeah, so we have, we're doing on a recurring basis, we're doing about $20 million a year of ARR with about 500 customers.
Yep. Okay, good. So we can obviously just take 500 and divide that into your ARR to kind of get a good sense. Each customer is paying about what, $3,000-$4,000 a month, something like that.
That's more 40.
Yeah. Yep. So about $40,000 ACV, something like that. Interesting.
Yep.
And what are they, and obviously that might be maybe first year ACV. When they're signing up originally, are they starting with one specific sector of the business and then expanding to different like other departments or silos? Or are you really going for a full deployment right off the bat?
So that's very interesting. They usually start with one part of the company, but the interesting part with social data now is it started with digital marketing. Obviously, all of the digital marketers want to listen to social data. But now what we're seeing is that as those clients get more mature, they also want to use the social data for consumer insights, which is the traditional market research teams. They want to use that for social care. So all of the customer relationship, like when you tweet at an airline because you're complaining your flight is late, they want to listen to that, and it informs even their product strategy. And so it usually starts with one team, but our role is to evolve this maturity model and to help those clients get more mature and get into more teams.
Yep. So what is typical expansion year over year on a single account?
So we've got some clients who started at with a 50K engagement, 50K average contract value, and now are like multiple 100Ks, and that's what we're looking at doing. And that's why we focus on large enterprise with global brands, because it gives us an opportunity to work with multiple markets. A lot of those companies, if you take Danone, for instance, they're also multi-brands, which means each of the brand companies will want to have their own implementation of our platform. So if you multiply that by brands, by markets, and if you cross from digital marketing to consumer insights to Marcom, you get a lot of expansion capabilities.
So Guillaume, if you look at kind of net revenue retention annually, it sounds like you might be above 100 by a good chunk if your expansion machine is working nicely. What is it today?
It means of like
net revenue retention.
So I don't have that number in mind, but the company's been growing through negative churn from for over the past 3 years already.
Okay, if we peel back that onion for a second though, I mean, do you have the gross revenue churn number before you add back expansion?
Sorry, can you say again?
Yeah, Guillaume, the question was, if you peel back that onion, do you have your do you know your gross revenue churn per year before you add back expansion?
No, not at the top of my head. And bear with me, I've been in the business for just a few weeks. I think, if we look at the, and there's a tiering approach we're having there with maybe if you look at our top 10 clients, we've been growing, with them at probably a 30-40% expansion rate year to year. And the smaller clients is, going into, from one engagement to becoming a tier one client. So the way we look at our model is really, do we start with local clients in one geography with one team? And can we get them to become then global clients with multiple geographies, multiple teams? So for us, that's where we are focusing our activities from a sales point of view, from an account management and CS point of view.
Okay, but you're sure from a net revenue retention perspective, you're above 100% on a cohort. Okay, got it. Yeah. Very cool. And then the overall business? You said you're doing about 20 million today. What were you doing about a year ago? What's the overall company growth rate?
So the company's been growing, 30-40% a year for the last 4 years. Okay,
so call it a year ago, maybe doing about $15 million in ARR, something like that. Yeah. That's great. And how much of the growth over the past 12 months was from the Scoopit acquisition, or were they really just going after you and your team?
Oh, so that's before we include the Scoopit acquisition.
15 was before Scoopit?
Those numbers are pro forma before the Scoopit acquisition.
Including the 20 you just told me today?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, did Scoopit have meaning? I forget what you told me because it was many, many shows ago, but did Scoopit have meaningful revenue?
Scoopit is 2.5 ARR, approximately at this stage.
Okay, so call it 22.5 today total altogether.
Yeah.
Interesting. Exactly. That's great. And then Linkfluence, it sounds like they've raised capital. How much total have they raised?
45.
45. Yeah. Okay. And what was the latest round of?
The latest round was 21, and that closed. That's what we announced a couple of weeks ago.
Yep. Was that round contingent on them doing a deal with you and you joining as CEO?
It happened at the same time, but it wasn't contingent on this. But it raised those questions about, where do we take the business, like what's next for the company, and how do we solve the gap in terms of geography, with the company being one of the only players in that market that hasn't been really present in the US.
Yep. And when was put kind of linked Fluence on a timeline for us? When did they launch?
So company actually launched in 2006, but the kind of shift to becoming a SaaS platform happened in 2012. So from 2006 to 2012, the company was very good at understanding social data, but more acting as consultants or as an agency with their clients. And they started to build the SaaS platform in 2012 and started transitioning from an agency model to a SaaS platform, which I think is a great way to discover some needs and really understand the model for your clients. It's just a hard transition that a lot of agencies or consulting firms fail to achieve at some point.
Why do they fail?
Because it's not the same culture. Being a consulting firm is like, you don't have to productize. You don't have to really narrow down the needs of your clients to the essentials. So having the discipline to build a product is a different exercise. And I think I've seen some people go through that transition. I was at the board of a company that did that really well, but I've seen a lot of people fail and be tempted to always do custom work with their clients all the time. There's always a temptation between as an agency you can do anything, but as a product company you can do what your product is good at, which means you need to focus.
Yep. Yeah, it's a tough thing to give up. The most successful SaaS companies, though, you're right, that I've interviewed have all started for a year or two as an agency, and then they were ruthless in either selling the agency or shutting it down and going all in on the software, even if revenue took a hit for a year or two.
Exactly, and it takes a lot of discipline. And it takes, you need to say no to some clients, and it's very hard.
Yep. What's the combined company, LinkedIn plus Scoop It? What are you guys at today in terms of team size?
220 people.
220. Okay, very good. And spread out obviously between San Francisco. Where else?
So most of the team for Linkfluence is in Europe and Asia. So Paris is the HQ. We've got offices in London, Düsseldorf in Germany, Shanghai in China, and Singapore. So now we're adding San Francisco as a new office. That's
great. And I know you've just joined a couple of weeks ago. Have you dug in yet to kind of understand things like payback period on these new $40,000 ACV accounts?
So it's actually very interesting because the company's been growing without doing much marketing historically. So it hasn't used the traditional, SaaS playbook, marketing acquisition, and CAC. Most of those deals came through being diligent, doing some networking with those big accounts, being in RFPs. So it doesn't have a good visibility, and that's one of the things that I want to, be more disciplined into understanding is like, what are what's the payback period, what's the CAC, what should we focus on? So there's a lot of things that the company's been doing, which is outside of the typical SaaS playbook, but it's been, successful at doing it. I think. Now that we're expanding and, obviously you want to be strong and disciplined in our acquisition in the US, we're going to have to measure a lot more of those metrics.
Of the 220 people full-time, how many of them are dedicated to marketing or sales or AEs or SDRs or things like that?
So the whole sales and marketing part is about 30%.
Okay, 30% of the 220?
Mm-hmm.
So about 63 people, something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could add up all their salaries like per month and then divide by the number of new customers per month and kind of back into a fully weighted CAC. Do you look at those kinds of calculations or no?
Yeah, that's what we're going to be putting in place to get a better understanding of this.
But it hasn't been in place since you joined.
No, it's actually interesting. The company's been having pretty good growth, but outside of the playbook, of doing everything, by the book and in terms of following the SaaS metrics like CAC, like, net churn, retention, and so on.
Interesting. Well, it sounds like there's a lot to optimize. That's a lot of fun. All right, let's wrap with Guillaume with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
That's funny because you asked me the question last time.
Anything new?
There's a business book that I loved back in the days, which was Built to Last. can't remember the author, but it dates back to a long time ago.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Not really.
Number that's okay.
With those questions.
That's okay. Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building the business besides your own?
So one of the tools I really love, it's a tool called Full Story.
Yep.
It's really helping, understand how people use your product. I would really recommend it.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep are you getting every night?
7 to 8.
That's good. And what's your situation? Married, single, kiddos?
Married, 3 kids.
3, very good. And how old are you?
So oldest one is 18 and then 15 and 13.
Sorry, how old are you?
I'm 47.
47. All right. He says as he squeaks a little bit. All right. Last question here, Guillaume. Right. Take us back to your 20-year-old self. What do you wish you knew?
Well, I would say, I don't know if I wish I knew, I'd known more, but the advice I would give myself would be, to get out of my comfort zone. That's what I told, my daughters, as she started college. There's a lot more to learn if you go out and, you push yourself on the red and you get out of your comfort zone and you learn new things. I don't know if there's one thing, I wish I knew, but definitely would push myself to get out of things that are easy.
Guys, get out of your comfort zone. He grew his company Scoopit to about $2 million in revenue. Then recently was acquired by a much larger company called Linkfluence that was founded in 2006. And in 2012, that company transitioned to a full-fledged SaaS company. Still early on, really growing through RFPs, now doing about $22 million in ARR combined between the two companies. $45 million raised, 500 customers paying. They've got about 220 folks between San Francisco and other remote locations. Again, helping to make social data more accessible, more relevant, and really social listening more simple or simpler. Guillaume, thank you so much for taking us to the top.
Thanks, Nathan.